In 2020, whilst I was still a small content creator, I met a commentary YouTuber by the name of Allucid. At the time, he was at around 6,000 subscribers and had been growing off the success of his video on the experimental artist Lil Darky. Back then, I didn't really pay attention to his content and just found him to be a friendly person to talk to, but he would go on to enjoy great success over the next year with his YouTube channel. He eventually rose to 25,000 subscribers and was one of the most promising talents inside the commentary scene. It's safe to say Allucid earned the respect of his idols and his fans. But the most significant event for him was in October 2020, when some serious allegations of grooming were made public. At the time, this was dealt with quickly and is known today as a resolved case and another instance of false accusations online. But unknown to most of the onlookers, this was not the truth. What if I told you this case was badly mishandled by the accusers and the investigators? What if I told you this case would be dismissed based on a false technicality? What if I told you the individual accused would purge everything as soon as he was privately confronted with new information? Today I'll be solving one of commentary's most complicated tales. It's a chaotic one that features doxers, incompetency, misinformation, paranoia, and one lucky man. Born June 21st, 2001 and known in real life as Seth, anything about Allucid's identity or past is very hard to find. He started his first YouTube channel in 2015, originally posting gameplay clips from his Xbox One. But 3 years later, and as he approached adulthood, Allucid decided he wanted to take YouTube more seriously, and therefore created his current channel in October 2018. At the time, YouTubers such as Cyrus, Scrubby, and Benji had taken off at a young age, making gameplay commentary videos in the same vein as Leafy is here, and Allucid started off with that same style of content. In early 2019, thanks to self-promoting his videos on Discord servers, he would become well acquainted with two other notable small commentary YouTubers by the names of Just Dino and Shive. In particular, Shive would become a pretty close friend of Allucid's. He helped make his banner, and the two of them would later become part of a group of online friends and small content creators. This group made videos together, recorded cringy diss tracks, and they even started up their own Minecraft server. Towards late 2019, Allucid would start to pivot his channel in a new direction as he turned from CSGO gameplay commentary to more refined editing. In February 2020, he would make a 6-minute video discussing where Leafy is here had gone.
2016 was the year of Edge on YouTube, where the platform had a whole new wave of content creators of all kind, who were just blowing up. You could say and do practically anything and make a shit ton of cash. Now it's pretty clear you clicked on this video for one or two reasons. Either you're looking for Leafy is here, or you want to know what happened to him. And that being said, I guess it's time for a theory on where exactly he is.
Despite the video's short length, it was a clear showcase of Allucid's talent and got some traction after Leafy's return. It also definitely put him on the map and allowed him to start making connections with other channels. In March of 2020, Allucid would make his video The Impact of Lil Darky, and that video would garner 120,000 views in its first 30 days. Allucid's channel reached 2,000 subscribers a few weeks after its release, and to celebrate, Allucid published Apex on Adderall, a fun gaming video with his friends.
You cunt! First round jutsu! I got it! I got the vault.
Hey Dario!
Yeah.
Come with me into the McDonald's play place.
Here, everyone, stand up, get up.
Oh, snap, just
Stand up,
Come here. Oh shit, this one's locked.
But the good mood wouldn't last forever. In June 2020, Allucid's channel was put into jeopardy after he woke up to 4 false copyright strikes, which scheduled his channel for termination. It was evident this was not a valid strike, but in fact an individual impersonating another creator and wreaking havoc with malicious intent, and the same had happened to some of Allucid's friends.
I tried contacting the other creators who were in the same trouble as I was at the time, such as Leafy, Keemstar. I even tried contacting YouTube support, but obviously YouTube doesn't care about its creators. When have they ever? I made a group chat with a few massive YouTubers trying to help me, but still to no resolve. So the only solution I had to do was to private all of my videos and hope for the best. I hope for these strikes to die down and possibly contact the claimant. But honestly, I can't really contact the claimant.
Immediately, Allucid tried to push the story out there as his channel depended on it, and this paid off pretty quickly. A day after the strikes, Cyrus, a commentary YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers, would make a video advocating for help, as this had coincided with a number of strikes on other people inside the commentary community. Nicholas Diorio, another of the main figureheads inside the community, would also make a video bringing awareness to his issue.
But anyways, a creator named Allucid reached out to me, showcasing 4 copyright strikes he received. His account is currently awaiting termination. In case you don't know, because of the laws involved with copyright abuse, the only way you could appeal this would be to give your abuser your full legal name and address. You have to dox yourself or YouTube bans you forever. This is an actual ultimatum that you're forced to deal with if you want to file a counter notification. YouTube will not step in and protect their creators legally here, and it's a fucking disgrace. Something needs to change on this website, and it needs to change quickly.
These 2 instances alerted the entire community, and people started to rally behind him and the hashtag #SaveAllucid movement, desperately trying to spread the word around and save his channel. Thankfully, in came John Swan, one of the most influential commentary channels at the time due to his incredible editing skills and intelligent storytelling. Hot off the heels of his highly acclaimed videos on Suzy Lou and Chris Hansen, John was called in to help Allucid due to his expertise on copyright, and even if he had to temporarily private all his videos, the channel was ultimately saved. This terrifying attack would also end up being a sort of blessing in disguise because of the publicity he had gotten. I mean, a shout out from a 1 million subscriber YouTuber isn't anything to dismiss. But who had launched this attack and why? Well, Allucid's own theory was strange to say the least. As I've briefly mentioned before, Shive and Allucid made a Minecraft server together, and it was called the Dreamers SMP. This was a server made in late 2019 which turned into a place for small commentary channels to springboard their careers, but it would also host channels as big as Optimus. Prior to release, Shive had worked on creations for the server, as well as helping out with setting it up, but upon release his admin privileges would be taken away by Allucid without any reason. Shive was understandably annoyed by this as he had put so much time into this project, and felt like his removal was affected by continuous instances of constantly arguing with Allucid. According to Shive, Allucid had changed over time and had become controlling and manipulative, and his toxic demeanor affected the whole environment during the early days of the server. After weeks of hints that Shive clearly wasn't wanted in their friend group, he was then banned from the server inexplicably. So why did Allucid suddenly turn on one of his closest friends? Well, according to my conversations with Bryzan, one of the former owners of Dreamers SMP and a former close friend of Allucid, it seemed that Allucid thought Shive was the one issuing the copyright strikes on his channel because the email used to strike them down was supposedly using Shive's real name. However, it's hard to believe this claim for a few reasons. During Allucid's own video on the strikes, the names used to issue the strike are actually shown briefly. I decided to search these names up online on sites such as White Pages, and results came up, but the ages shown here were nowhere close to Shive's real age. These were people in their mid-30s, whilst Shive would have been around 13 to 14 in late 2019. It's also worth noting that Shive isn't the only alleged suspect. Apparently Allucid has also said it was his ex-girlfriend or a gacha life YouTuber he was making fun of at the time. If it was just one main suspect, this accusation would be a lot more believable, but I think he just wanted an excuse to get rid of Shive because of just how much they argued. Following Shive's removal, he would contact some other people who had also been fucked over by the Minecraft server, and a few days later they would all start tweeting about how Dreamers SMP wasn't a server that commentators should seek out and join, due to inexplicable banning, as well as issues with moderation, admin abuse, and poor ownership. Some would critique the situation for how childish it seemed to have drama over a Minecraft server, but at the end of the day, it worked. Dreamers SMP would quickly turn into a toxic shithole of hacking and arguments, and a few days later, it was officially closed. But this would not be the last fight between Shive and Allucid. After the server shut down, Allucid would go offline for a while. This wasn't just to get his focus away from Minecraft and more towards his channel, it was also because he'd received an anonymous email threatening him with his dogs. As you might expect, Allucid once again accused Shive of sending this email, although this time the accusation isn't as baseless because one of Shive's former friends called Wispy Sucks admitted to sharing Allucid's docs with someone. However, this is still nowhere near enough to prove Shive did the doxing, and he's told me himself he didn't even know Wispy had shared private information. This all led to Allucid going on a call in a popular commentary Discord server and accusing Shive of doxing, but he failed miserably. Regardless of this, Allucid continued to grind out a ton of videos over the summer of 2019. 2020. By the end of September, he was at almost 10,000 subscribers. He had made a number of friends inside the community due to getting shouted out, and was one of the most promising creators inside the commentary sphere. But everything would really change on October 9th, 2020, when a statement on Twitter by Shive himself accused him of predatory actions. So, how did this come to be? After leaving the Dreamers SMP and building his way forward, Shive had become friends with some other commentators. There were many to count, but the ones relevant to this segment are Oblasoft, Spifey, Wales, and Wispy Socks. In September, a 14-year-old girl by the name of Maddie messaged Spifey, one of her close friends. She told him that Allucid had groomed her and provided evidence, and after learning of this, Spifey notified Shive. Having seen the evidence, Shive and the girl decided the best thing to do would be to publish this via Twitlonger. On October 9th, 2020, Shive would post a Twitlonger titled "Allucid caught being a pedo, and it's not the first." So just to say, I am no longer friends with Allucid, and I've not been friends with him or in contact with him for around 3 months now. So just to get it out of the way, Allucid has been caught yet again, but this time with evidence. Now about a year ago when I met him, Allucid got accused for doing sexual things with minors, but there was no evidence to back it up, so I just ignored it and thought it was fake. But now that we have this evidence that you can see in the link below, it could mean the last accusation was true, although this is just a guess. Anyways, he's yet again doing sexual things and saying sexual things towards a minor that he knows is a minor, and has also stated that he doesn't mind that she is a minor. Things included of what he said are as follows: asking for Snapchat to say dirty things without repercussion to her, talking about being in the shower whilst thinking about her, him wishing she could do something to make him feel better, him calling her hot, and just overall really weird and creepy things. Now if you don't know already, Allucid is 19 years old, making him an adult, and he is talking to a girl who is 14 years of age. The girl that sent these screenshots would like to remain anonymous for her own safety. Please share this around, I don't want him sexually harassing anyone anymore. Who knows how many times he's done this. Not only that, but he has had many exes in the past who left him for being emotionally manipulative, which I can see now. Allucid, I know you're reading this. Please go seek help of any sorts. Shive. The attached evidence included Instagram screenshots and scrolling proof to back it up, and I will read out all of these. Just some clarification though to make this less confusing, some DMs appear repeatedly because Allucid would constantly delete any sign of a flirty message towards her, or any sign of her saying she's a minor or anything like that, so hopefully that gets conveyed better in the editing. Have fun in your shower, smart one, Lamau. Alright, let me stop. Clearly I'm bothering you. You're not, I promise, I swear. How? Cause it's a natural thing, lol? No. Wish you could fix it. Lamau, you're funny, but I am a minor. Yeah, I know you are, but I don't know, delete. I guess, but I don't know why I am so much. I don't even know, I just looked at your profile and yeah. Lamau, it's fine, I get why. My dad is just super strict. Okay, look like, Never mind, let me stop. Are you sure? Yes. I would send stuff to you to be honest if you want, but only if you had Snap. And I need to stop. Damn? Yeah. We're thinking gay. Sorry, I had to. Lol, Drew, Lamau. God, I wish you would snap the shit I'd say. It's bad right now. I'm so sorry. You're funny, lol. What did I do now? You're just funny, you're cool. No, I'm not. I think you are. God, I'm so hard right now. Ugh. What the hell, man? Jesus Christ. You're so hot. I can't think enough to shower. Showers are good, plus you can fix your issue in peace. Not really. Wish you could. I'm gonna go shower and think. Please text me if it gets really bad. I care about you. Chill, Lamau. Ha ha ha, what you mean? I'm joking, I love you. Wholesome. Always. Ugh, I can't anymore, I'm so horny right now. I'm gonna go shower and think about my life. Have fun, Lamau. Nobody has to know. You can just delete our text altogether, smart one. You don't have to unsend everything, Lamau. You can, I just did it. See? You can delete them on your part, lol. All better. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Just be careful. You don't need a scandal. Just be careful, okay? It's fine. That's so much work, just delete them. I mean like our conversation altogether, lol. I'm gonna go pass out. Hopefully I don't wake up. Hey, don't say that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine though. Let's hope you stay alive. I never do. Kinda always felt like this. You'll get better, I promise. I'll be fine though. I'll try. I swear. Swear what? You'll be okay. As the Twitlonger was published, many people reacted in disgust, shock, and anger, boosting it throughout the community. Shive would even make tweets remarking at the attention his social media was getting, and people such as Oblasoft and Spifey would post pre-prepared memes about the situation. Yet already, some people had taken it too far. Within only a few hours of the allegations being published and without any response from Allucid, another group of small commentators would get a hold of Allucid's full name and address, and would call in a police raid.
White County Sheriff's Office, LA, how can I help you?
Hi. I'd like to file a pedophile report.
Okay, what's it in reference to? Okay.
Alex
And your last name?
Smith.
Okay, and tell me a little bit what's going on.
So basically, there's this pedophile online that's like luring 14-year-olds to 12-year-olds like in and like
To his house.
Like they're making sexual comments. He also
Say he's luring them to his house.
he's trying to lure them to his house as well, but it's over online. He's not a minor, but he's attracting like 14 or 12 to 14-year-olds.
Despite there being an expected reaction to these allegations, there was also a lot of criticism. The false allegations made against Slazo were still fresh in the minds of the commentary community, and many people took to Twitter to criticize these similar accusations. They took it apart for everything, from the spelling mistakes in the twitlonger to the substance inside the DMs. On the same day, commentary streamer AugieRFC would set up a private call with Allucid and Shive to gather more information.
Just for people to watch out and be like, hey, this guy does this, so be sure to watch out for that.
Hey, this guy might be a pedophile, so watch out. It just seems juvenile to me. I mean...
The story's public perception was becoming shaky after a mere few hours, and as it got more publicity, more people started to critique Shive. So it was a big deal when John Swan picked up the Allucid story and started an emergency livestream investigating these allegations. After introing his stream and looking through the twitlonger and messages involved, John pulls Shive into the VC to interrogate him on the handling of the situation. He first points out how Shive had not gone to the police.
So you took a pedo allegation to Twitter. Like, that's helped all the other times when this has gone down.
I couldn't find any other way to get it out there because Allucid previously had me blocked.
The first place I would have gone to was the police.
We're gonna do that, but a bit later. The only reason
A bit later? Why a bit later?
Yeah, the only reason why we're gonna do it first is because the girl that was affected has like parents that aren't apparently that fond upon this, obviously. So
I don't think many parents would be. No, this is pretty bad if this happened. Yeah. Okay,
so you thought that Twitter would be more effective than the police?
No, just it was a starting point.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting how you decided to go to Twitter instead of the police first. I think that was a questionable choice on your part if these allegations were true at all.
After that, John moves on to a very interesting point. During the screen recording of the DMs, there's a sudden and suspicious spike of lag. Shive defends us by saying that the girl's recording was lagging because she was using an iPhone 6, and her Instagram was in an old format because old iPhones don't let you update to new versions.
I want to bring up the screen recording here because I thought this was really interesting. This screen recording is not fantastic. I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to go and quickly pull up the original screen recording video here. We're going to see the immediate cut immediately 2 seconds into the video. An iPhone doesn't just lag for a full, like,
she
a
has
second
an iPhone
at a point.
6.
It doesn't matter. iPhones don't do that. It's just this is an old iPhone. It doesn't mean it'll lag a full second over here before it scrolls.
I mean, I have an iPhone 7, but it still lags in Instagram and stuff like that. And not only that, but it's also an old version of Instagram since her iPhone won't allow her to update to the new ones.
That's
because she can't update the iOS.
Convenient.
Then, John brings up the private call with AugieRFC and Shive and says that the Instagram Shive provided does not exist. Shive says that she probably just changed her name and privately sends John the girl's new Instagram.
So you gave out the information.
Yeah.
This account doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Oh yeah,
it's
she
gone.
changed her. Yeah, she changed her. I can give you the new one if you want.
What did you give the wrong at?
No, I did give the right one. She just recently changed it.
Why would she change it?
Somebody was adding her, and she was freaking out about that. So I can give you the new one though.
Yeah, please could you give me the new one? Because this is new information. It looks like.
After that, Allucid then gets brought in.
Not a single thing that was said there was true, right? Not a single thing.
Yes, I deny everything. All the accusations, I deny them entirely.
Okay. So you've never messaged this 14-year-old?
Never.
No. You've never messaged this 14-year-old in a sexual way ever.
Never.
Okay, cool. At least we got that out of the way here.
The investigators then find out that Allucid has no DMs on his end, as per a call that John and Allucid had prior to the stream, and the question comes up of how one party had the DMs and the other one didn't. Thankfully, through some in-the-field testing, they realize you can delete conversations on Instagram, but the person on the other end still has them. Shive then returns to the stream, having got a slightly clearer DM recording, which shows that Allucid has been deleting his messages with this girl. John sees this recording and admits that it looks a lot worse, due to aspects of it such as the typing bubble.
Right. Okay, and then when we were in the call, hold on. When we were in the call with the guy, he said this right here, this icon, is a big pointer to this being real. This right here. Like, just little details like that.
Alright, so that is a little bit more. That's a little bit more for sure. That icon that he's talking about there, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. That is especially those texts. That's the texting while the DMs are coming in. That's definitely something.
Then Lynad, a now former friend of John's who was in the call, brings up that it could be a fake account and says they need more proof of that. Shive replied by saying it was in the original screen recording, which everyone already doubts.
The recording could be real, but the reason I'm asking about timestamps is to verify whether or not it's a fake account, because it could just easily be an account with the same name and picture.
I have another recording. I don't know if you've seen it. It's the one where it goes from the account to the
Yeah, I've seen that one, but
profile.
that was the one that was glitchy, and that's the one where I was a bit skeptical. That's the one I showed on stream earlier.
Then something weird happens. Previously, Shive had talked about the girl having an iPhone 6, and that aspect not letting her update Instagram to its latest version. Well, a friend of Allucid's by the name of Raimu calls in and says that Allucid also had an iPhone 6, and his Instagram version was different.
Well, one of my main points that I literally just thought up of on the fly, right, was that Shive said that the accuser, right, has an iPhone 6 and it won't allow her to update to the newest version of Instagram, right? Well, I know that Mr. Allucid has an iPhone 6 as well, and he is on the most current version of Instagram.
Oh!
I literally asked him to go
Oh!
to Instagram
Are we gonna have to confirm the version?
Oh no!
This was ultimately proven to not have a difference though, as Allucid owns an iPhone 6s Plus which can update to the next version. But it leads John to make the call for anyone who has an iPhone 6 and the exact version of Instagram to screenshot their layout.
So if anyone with an iPhone 6, if you're watching right now, please tweet at me the version, and can you please tweet me the app version you're on? Now, we want to prove that the name on the top. The thing about this, right? The thing about this is the name on the top is weird in these. The name on the top only shows the username. Now, on the newest version of Instagram, the name and the @ both underneath each other. That's the newest version of iOS. That's what it shows. Oh, the newest version of Instagram. That's what it shows. iPhone 5. Oh! Done it! It's disproved! iPhone 5, 12.4.8, iPhone 5S.
5S, yeah.
Instagram, 162, name @ I'm sorry!
Okay.
There it is!
So if Shive is still
We've done
watching...
Having collected screenshots from other users who had iPhone 6s, John Swan and his affiliates declared victory, concluding that the evidence was insufficient, and the next few days was an onslaught for the publicly shamed accusers. Shive would post an apology before making some truly awful responses that only made Allucid look more innocent.
You know, I know you're probably done to death with the whole Allucid situation, but just why?
That thing. I almost forgot.
Dude, if you almost forgot about that.
And after that, he disappeared from the public, purging his channel of videos and clearing his Twitter. Oblasoft and Spyfy, after similar backlash, would delete their entire online presence, whilst Wispy and Wales, who hadn't been as involved, posted their public apologies. All of the accusers would continue to say that Allucid was guilty, either in public or private, but at this point their credibility had already been destroyed. For most people, these false allegations had met their end fairly quickly. But hold on one second here, because if you're sitting there paying attention, you may notice there's a lot of interesting things that really don't add up here, and as we're doing a retrospective, I'd love to go through them point by point and establish how wrong all of these are. So the main points brought up are, Shive never went to the police, The iPhone 6 screen recordings had extreme amounts of lag, the Allucid Instagram account could be fake, the evidence doesn't have the handle at the top, so the DMs are fake. So let's start with point 1. Why did Shive never go to the police? Well, at the time, Shive was only 15 years old, a point that no one brought up at the time, and something that John Swan didn't even know. Now, this does not excuse Shive or absolve him of total responsibility, rather it gives a good reason for some of his illogical actions. It explains why he didn't call the police because he was too young to handle it. It explains the awful responses that he made, and it explains why he easily caved to public pressure and put out an apology. In fact, leaked DMs from this time show him saying that exact same thing. So when he's talking to Augie in the private call and Augie says he sounds juvenile, that's because he is. So we can cross this point of doubt off for inexperienced accusers. Then there's the laggy phone recording, which seems suspicious but can be easily explained. The iPhone 6 was released in 2014, and iOS 11, the update that lets you screen record, was released in 2017. Why is this important? Simple. Screen recording software is very demanding on your phone's hardware, and for an older product it's hard for them to keep up with those demands, especially as companies add new updates and tweak the software to be even higher quality. An iPhone 6 has around 1GB of memory and a 2-core processor, and in comparison, the iPhone 8, released around the same time as the screen recording software, has double the memory and triple the core processors. For the nerds, here's a more detailed explanation that you can pause and read, but to simplify, it's like trying to run GTA 5 max settings on a PlayStation 3. Yes, it'll still be GTA 5 and it will work, but the results will not exactly be optimal. Several additional factors can also contribute to lag, such as network conditions, storage, device temperature, and battery health. Again, may look abnormal, but it makes total sense when we consider the various factors, so we can cross that one off as well. Then there's the speculation about the profile being fake, which is insane because this first screen recording on its own is damning. Let's see, it shows scrolling proof of the messages, Allucid's profile and who follows him, and his recent posts and who's like that. Along with the typing bubble indicator and her refreshingly fucking page, it is basically impossible for an alternative application to be able to fake all of this in 2020. It boggles my mind how any of these people looked at this and still denied what was in front of them. It's just fucking crazy. So that's another off the list. And as for the supposed smoking gun, that the Instagram format did not line up with the exact versions, and they needed 2 names at the top, this seemingly illogical contradiction was actually caused by a very weird Instagram username bug that only occurred when you had 2 or more accounts signed in at once, and everyone who provided their alternate proof had different screenshots because they only had 1 account signed in. Don't believe me? Here's screenshot evidence of that happening. As someone's trying to DM Allucid, they switch between accounts and the DM glitch occurs. Now you could say that's fake, and that is a valid point. I understand the amount of doubt to be placed on this bug that's hardly been documented online. But don't forget, Instagram is a pretty glitchy app. One look online and you'll find news articles, Reddit posts, Quora questions talking about issues people are having with 2 accounts. Instagram clearly has a way to differentiate between 2 or more accounts. Look at the notification, for example, and how it changes depending on the amount of accounts someone might have. It just makes total sense when you consider every other factor. There is no other way around it. And that is all points crossed off and evidence validated. The interesting thing is that everyone got so caught up on this Instagram name gotcha that they overlooked the only part of the allegation that's actually up for debate, and that's the acknowledgement of age. From the screenshots, we have no idea whether Allucid really knew he was talking to a 14-year-old, as the DMs only show us saying that she's a minor, which could mean she told him any age from 14 to 17. Also, if they were trying to fake DMs, then they wouldn't be vague about it. They'd put a number or an age instead of just saying I'm a minor. Now, it's also worth noting that this girl posted pictures of herself publicly, and Allucid constantly deleted flirty messages towards her and asked her to do the same, but I'm going to ask you to put a pin in that because we will come back to it much later. I promise you, it will make a lot more sense when we're back with it. But the point stands regardless. Contrary to established belief, these DMs are undoubtedly true, and I believe that Allucid completely lied to everyone. Whilst Shive was definitely not the best person to handle the situation, it's apparent to me that the investigation here was mainly at fault. The questions they asked, the assumptions they jumped to, they don't make sense. I know the Instagram glitch didn't really help anyone, but this deserved far more than just a rushed and mishandled livestream, and it shocks me how in less than an hour, Allucid was completely vindicated and let go without any further questions. Following the allegations, Allucid continued on as normal. His enemies had all been owned, and it seems like anything that tried to bring him down would make him stronger. Now at this point, someone should have taken a closer look, but by then everyone else got distracted, and the commentary community sites were already set on another situation. During 2020, another commentary channel that had been on the rise was Pieman, a dedicated fan of the genre and community who had been making his own video essays. However, in November, he would get into his own situation after the public found out that he had been having some sussy conversations with a 12-year-old whilst 15. In fairness, he didn't know until he was told, but when he was told, he said that he was turned on more because their age was lower.
I beg your pardon?
The Pieman situation would eclipse the Allucid situation for two main reasons. Firstly, because the Allucid situation was confusing and hard to understand, whilst the Pieman situation could be explained in one screenshot. And secondly, because at the time, Allucid made John Swan look like the hero. In contrast, the Pieman situation showed him berating a 15-year-old. It made him look like the villain, which was far more appealing to anyone watching. Allucid himself was even involved in the Pieman situation. During February 2021, Pieman would make a video calling out John Swan for his actions towards him. Allucid then made a reaction stream to it with the title Smoking That Pieman Pack.exe facecam, where he went live in a commentary group Discord server laughing at the video. John Swan himself even made an appearance in the stream, but let's move on from Pieman. On the outside, Allucid was pretty fine. He'd make memes about his own situation and seemed to be chill, but behind the scenes, he had changed. We've already noted that Allucid had become manipulative and paranoid towards Shive after the copyright stuff, but after the allegations, he was paranoid towards his own friends. To understand his mindset, I asked Bryson about it, and he said this. He isolated myself and a few others, made us pick sides, and we all backed him through everything just for him to abandon us and go cold when all the shit turned out to be true. He started making excuses for him to no longer trust us, when really it was just because I still talked to the other group of people, Decept and Shive, etc., and he didn't want us talking to anyone else. Like we said, he was constantly paranoid and just super manipulative. He had to always be the center of attention and had to be in control of every situation. In terms of him making us pick sides, there was a few occasions. We used to have a huge commentary group Discord server, and VCs would get heated at times, usually against Seth, and I'd get DMs from him asking me to back him and be on his side, and if I ever wasn't, he'd get really cold with me. He did this with a few others as well. The way he was around people massively changed after the allegations first came out. Allucid seemed to constantly get into arguments with his friends and looked unstable at times. It made no sense to them how he would test their loyalty. Perhaps it was because Shive was active again, and perhaps because people were going to find out the truth. Around late March 2021, some of Allucid's friends would start questioning everything as a result of his recent behaviour, and in response he would act erratically. In this DM you can see a friend known only as Stop contacting Allucid on Discord after being shown new evidence by Shive. According to Stop, they questioned Allucid with a simple screenshot. This was the profile that everyone thought was fake. Allucid could have debunked it fairly quickly if he was telling the truth, but instead he ignores Stop after these DMs and responds vaguely. Immediately after this call, Allucid started deleting his tweets, blocked any of his friends who talked about it, deleted his main Twitter account and started back up on his old Twitter, removed his Twitter from his Discord connections, started removing friends from his private account on Twitter, and changed his name on Instagram. Now listen, I'm not a detective or anything, but he might as well be microwaving his fucking hard drives at the point. It has to be asked, like, what do you think he has to hide from this one simple question? This event was the breaking point for everyone inside the circle with Allucid, as they saw this and did not like the uncertainty of his responses, as well as the speed in which he cleared his accounts, and Allucid would respond by burning all the bridges he had with the community. On April 16th, 2021, Allucid made a public announcement that he was leaving YouTube forever. I don't like creating content anymore, for those who are curious. I'm dropping a long-awaited project soon. I'm going to be focusing on my life outside of YouTube. Thanks for the ride for those who stayed. I'm a good friend since the beginning. I'm thankful to have been a part of a lot of projects whilst I was on the platform, even ghostwriting some stuff, which is cool. I feel blessed to have even been a part of the ride whilst I was creating, but that being said, after this project drops, whatever happens, happens. Now privately, we obviously know why this happened, and at this point, someone should have taken a closer look, but by then, everyone else got distracted, and the commentary community sites were already set under the situation. At the time, some of Allucid's friends were also suspicious that he'd been running an anime AMV account posing as a 19-year-old Polish girl on the channel svd.desu. They found the channel in Bryson's subscription list and started to connect things together, such as Allucid's Discord name being Desu and the editing looking similar. On April 17th, Allucid and Just Dino had a public argument about the account. This is proof how. It was an inside joke, quick jumping to conclusions. Motherfucker, you showed me. You logged into the channel on a Discord Discord screen recording, stop lying and trying to have another life, you fucking weirdo. This is jumping to conclusions. Please do not harass another person who is unrelated. As a result of this, Allucid blamed Bryzan for the situation. The SVD Desu stuff was weird. I still don't know if I fully believe that's him, but yeah, that was a whole thing. I was subbed to the channel and people saw that on my subscription list and put 2 and 2 together, and related it was Allucid. Another thing he got angry at me for and used an excuse not to trust me and push me away. This action was the final straw for some of Allucid's commentary friends, such as Dr. Skipper, who made a public statement about how Bryzan had been treated on April 18th. Kept quiet because I believe things will be resolved, but I'm making this a closer chapter. Allucid, since we met you, you were always a skeptical person. You stated that you can't ever trust anyone because they will always backstab you, and this is not a case of that. People did backstab you, absolutely, but those people were not me and Bryzan. We were your friends in your corner, and cutting us off to then hide with yes men is not what a friend does. And your reason of potential conspiracy is such bullshit. You could have DM'd me and Bryzan, he's been with you for years, and you toss him out over conspiracy? Fuck talking to Shive, Decept, or what you thought. You threw out someone who was a real friend in a blink of an eye because you were afraid of conversations. Friends don't suck each other off and give only validation. Friends are critical and hold each other accountable. They also are free to speak their mind. You're a talented person with so much potential, but casting real friends aside to then claim nobody can be trusted is not okay. You are a real friend. I trust in you, we spoke daily. I told you to restart and focus on music projects, and I didn't even get to see you or bye before you cut ties. You cut ties because I was a commentary channel and you thought I had potential involvement with Shive? Are you serious? And people are defending you with the real friend stuff. DM me if you want to repair this, otherwise it was nice knowing you. You were a great person and friend before you switched up, but this time the foil hat bullshit is going to keep hurting you. I hope for the best. In the constant manipulation games and forcing people to pick sides, one small commentator by the name of Staxies would be caught up in it. Staxies was still in school and struggling with his low grades, and after abandoning Allucid during this Discord drama, he would post a mental breakdown apology to his channel on the 20th of April 2021.
I'm a snake. I'm a fucking snake to people. I'm sorry, Allucid.
After that, not much would happen. Some people would keep their eyes on the situation, but it felt like this was just shaping up to be a nothing burger. That is, until one document changed everything. Enter LCDRCalvin. Previously unknown to most people, this small commentator exploded onto the scene in early May by publishing a GitHub document about Allucid and the DMs, attempting to prove the validity of the screenshots and recordings. This was the first time the Allucid allegations had been questioned publicly, but it didn't get much support until the first draft of this was mysteriously taken down. Calvin states it was Allucid himself and made a re-upload on May 16th, 2021. One day later, on May 17th, Allucid posted his 20k special, Apex and Adderall 2, ending his YouTube career and online presence. On May 18th, Nicholas Diorio would publish his video, YouTube's Biggest Hypocrites, with Allucid as a feature. This part in particular has been notoriously criticized for how lazy it was, but this would be the last piece of content we would ever see from Allucid. On May 19th, small commentator and editor Jay Contrary hosted a live stream of his show Jayco Live, in which he interviewed Calvin about everything that happened.
I would like to be in a call with Allucid to, like, I want to hear his side of this. I want to, like, see, like, what he thinks. I want to see, like, what's his reasoning on why this shit is fake. Like, I want to be in a call with him.
I'm just gonna say this to you, Calvin. That is most likely never gonna happen. Because,
well, that sucks for him, because I want to know why he thinks it's fake. Because here's the thing, if you think that you're innocent, you're just probably like you wouldn't have a problem getting in a call with me and, like, talking about this,
Now, Calvin's document was damning evidence to prove the screenshots actually existed, but yet again, this never led to anything more than that, and most people didn't really talk about it. Why? Well, for one, Calvin's document was written on GitHub, which scared off some potential readers who weren't familiar with the site. It's also worth noting that Calvin's document is full of technical jargon and could be hard to understand for anyone else who isn't familiar with computer technology terms. General rule of thumb, if you want people to get your message, you have to simplify it as much as you can for everyone. But at this point, surely someone should have taken a closer look. But by then, everyone else got distracted because something fucking insane happened relating to this situation that completely overshadowed the GitHub document. So you remember Staxies, the kid who cried to Allucid, and Just Dino, one of Allucid's oldest friends. Well, after both being fucked over by Allucid and both seeing the GitHub, they decided the best way to convey their message was through collaborating on a banger diss track released on May 29th, called Nobody Has to Know. This is both one of the worst and funniest things I've ever seen on the internet, and I would be amiss to not include it in this video.
I'm Allucid, I'm a pedo, kids wearing Speedos. I touched a boy in Rio, my room I'm eating Cheetos. I'm fucking on a kid now, a kid I call me Sid now. Attracted to Prid now. I'm so hard now, I see a minor plow down, pushing kids on SoundCloud. I just kiss from the loud house. My favorite show is Big Mouth. I like a girl from China. Eat underage vagina. I'm from Carolina. Hi, they call me Allucid. It's nice to meet you. And if you're 14, I'll consider you food. And when I'm in the shower, I will ask for nudes. Please do not arrest me. I'm just a normal dude with small hands and a fetish for something else that's a little small. I have just a bit of an addiction to damn Adderall, and I'm having withdrawal, so I'll run away from Shive. I'll blame it on that. I don't fucking know.
That was blissful. Do I even know why the diss track was created? No, and neither does anyone else. But in terms of handling situations, this totally fucked up everything. Making a funny diss track in the middle of a reopening grooming investigation has to be up there with the worst things you could do in that scenario, and safe to say, it completely destroyed any remnants of the situation being taken seriously. But the song was kind of fire. On June 1st, Jay Contrary would do yet another live stream in which he and his co-host discussed the Allucid situation again.
I feel like the community is now very suddenly jumping into the fact that they think that he's 100% guilty. And to be honest, I would not say that this is the case.
Then on June 2nd, Augie RFC would do a stream on the resurfacing of these allegations.
What are these Allucid allegations? I don't know, dude. I asked on Twitter, I was like, what are the allegations? A dude is 19 and is talking to minors in a disgusting way, and y'all have no problem with that? Whoa! Alright, right off the bat, we got some intimidation right here. Already, the person accusing him is like, you are a bad person. I just got here, dude. I just started reading. Chill. I remember, like, there were screenshots that came out, like, 7 months ago. And I talked to the people that were, like, leaking the screenshots, and they were, like, completely retarded. Like, I was talking to them, I was trying to establish, like, a timeline, and they were literally, like, lying to me. They were saying, like, one timeline of events, and then, like, a few minutes later, they said something completely the opposite. And I was just like, you guys are all brain dead. I'm not picking up your story. This sucks.
Dude, I just found like a GitHub. Someone linked you a GitHub.
I don't want to click on that.
Dude, are we doing GitHub takedowns now?
Wait.
Dude, it's just like, it's like the new Google Doc, dude. GitHub. Now you can defend yourself and release harmful malware all at once.
Nice. I wouldn't like.
I can't believe people aren't taking that seriously.
I haven't learned anything about Allucid yet. All I'm learning so far is that everybody involved in this is fucking retarded, just like last time. I don't know.
Augie and Nick were the most relevant people to get involved at this point, and their skepticism marks the end of what could have been a great opportunity to blow the story sky high and ask some vital questions. And so the Allucid case went back into obscurity. Now, I criticise LCDRCalvin for the way he handled the Allucid situation through overcomplication and lack of familiarity, but at least he actually put the accusations out there and he didn't make a dumb diss track. Well, 9 months later, he published a Twitter thread admitting to making everything up in his GitHub.
I'm unironically coming out exposing the truth that I did bullshit everything in the Allucid document. Please do not attempt to use it as evidence, pulled it off GitHub and it's no longer accessible. Okay, he is not a pedo, everything in the document was fabricated, it was easy to fool everyone considering how tech illiterate most of the community is. The reason I did it was because no one in my friend group liked Allucid and on top of that wanted some attention. Please do not call him a pedophile because he is not. After all, why would you want to believe a document made by me? It's not like my reputation is reputable or anything. That's true.
Now this is weird because we've already concluded and proven that Allucid's messages are real, so what is happening here? Well, DMs were leaked the following day that prove this is all an elaborate troll. Oh yeah, don't tell anyone, but I'm trying to piss as much people as I can. The Twitter thread is me being funny. Wait, so Allucid is a pedo? Yes, but don't tell anyone. Well yeah, but like, no one is gonna know except you and Vilu. No, you are ruining the fucking troll. What are you doing? Let Allucid off the hook. So why do this? Well, you have to understand the brains of these kinds of people. LCDRCalvin is a small commentator. He hasn't made it big, he has no morals or ethics or ties or credibility. He's a man who can fuck around because he has nothing to lose. And plus, he's gone on record and said he doesn't really care if Allucid is a pedophile because he can't really report him because he lives in the Middle East.
Here's the thing, I couldn't care less if he's a pedophile or like someone who children because it doesn't concern me. No, here's the thing, it doesn't concern me. Why would it concern me? I can't do shit. I'm someone who lives in the Middle East. What would I do about it? Now, even if I made a police report, nothing is going to happen to him.
And again, in this instance, despite his knowledge of the situation, the man got bored and wanted to cause some chaos, with no regard to how important it was. On March 2nd, Calvin would publish a response to these DMs via Twitlonger, going back on his statement and saying the GitHub was fake, but Allucid was still guilty, stating it was yet another example of the degeneracy and incompetence of this community. He goes on to talk about himself being a liar and a narcissist, and admits he doesn't really care about the Allucid situation and wants it to be confusing so no one can understand it. Unfortunately for him, I exist. Either way, this whole situation was a calamity to witness and just completely shattered any public belief left in the allegations. Allucid at this point was as innocent as anyone could be. In their minds, he literally did nothing wrong because of the constant incompetency of whoever was selected to handle these allegations. Unknown to everyone though, Allucid was online and watching. On April 4th, 2022, Allucid changed the details of his old account from 2019. 2 weeks later, he would make a surprise return to Twitter with a Twitlonger addressed to Calvin, Staxys, and Just Dino, titled Response. This is what you've all been waiting for, innit? Some of you may or may not have heard the false allegations slandering my online persona, stating that I, as an individual, have sexted a minor in 2021. This is my response to these slanderous, false allegations. I've always believed that an unfounded lie on social media doesn't deserve any response or clarification, especially one that is so disgusting. I initially assumed that this fake gossip, fabricated with such malicious intent to cancel me, would not be taken seriously, and even though I've already addressed it more than once, it seems to keep returning. However, this is going to be my last time addressing this situation and matter, because I'm not going to keep entertaining and giving attention to my harassers. In the last year I've left the community, I've been reminded that we are in an era that is so quick to speak on topics regardless of factual bias, and that nothing is off limits. Not even during the beginning of my career, or the happiness of what was once spread through my love of creating content, people jumped to assumptions to a few fabricated tweets. I was a toxic, edgy teen who made commentary videos criticizing and even using dark humor, but I don't feel like that's a justification for the harassment and accusation of such a heinous crime. I have grown, and I'm an adult now. I see the wrong in the toxicity and the immature behaviour I've once had before, and I have in no way ever by any account wanted or wished to do the acts they have said I've done. So this is my response, as I thought it would have been over with when I went on a live stream and talked to AugurFC and others about the situation, and we've proven everything to be fabricated. But as I've watched my previous friend group continue to walk, and even have the false accusers come out openly state they lied, it hurts that people act as if nothing has happened and are okay with the harassment. Therefore, for my life to go back as it was before, I must speak up, as this harassment has not only been directed towards me, but countless individuals who I have great respect for, and they were not in any way toxic or involved in the situation. I left 6 to 7 months after the allegations continued, because when I first addressed them, I slowly just got tired of content creation months later. It was disappointing when one of my old friends said he would falsely accuse me on a live stream, and even made a diss track with more fabricated statements. Wait, you don't watch Big Mouth?
My favorite show is Big Mouth.
Someone even made a GitHub to try and state the evidence was real, however they took it down and came out months later stating it was faked. But at this point, I don't even know why I trusted anyone in said community when people jump back and forth to begin with. I was a target for harassment, stalkers, and more, yet I've survived. But despite the harassment, it is surprising to me how I never expected my channel to get anywhere, even when I made stuff. I just didn't know how to balance my life with content creation, because in my eyes, I wasn't supposed to make it past 20k, and this is why I think the content creation scene isn't for me, when there are communities within in which some people go out their way to get people to bandwagon harassment because I've had drama with them in the past. In the replies to the tweet, I'll link the Google Drive with the videos and media, so you can get more context of the things I brought up, and you can look through it. Love and peace, Allucid. The Google Drive in question contains a lot of what we've already seen: the false copyright strikes, the AugurFC call, Shive's apology, Calvin's apology, the small commentator swatting him. There's nothing new here. Conveniently, he puts in Calvin's apology but leaves out the DMs where he admits to faking it to troll people, and also it's really sneaky here in this Twitlonger because he says, I went on a stream and talked to AugurFC and others. He specifically doesn't mention John Swan, who was the guy who literally bailed him out, because, you know, he knows the reputation that he has. Just some sneaky little changes there. Additionally, the same day this was published, Allucid had removed almost 100,000 views worth of videos. But overall, this is a pretty shit Twitlonger. I didn't expect much from someone that's months late and only exists to berate the people against him. At the start, he's just calling it all gossip and strawmanning arguments about him being edgy, and how that somehow justifies allegations, and he repeats that everything was fabricated, even though it clearly wasn't. Also, drinking game idea, take a shot every time he says the word harassment. What harassment? You got swatted in 2020, which is obviously valid harassment, but that's it. That was 2 years ago, you've been offline for months, and as far as everyone knows, nothing has come close to that. Who is harassing you, and how? Is it seriously the GitHub and the diss track? Because if it is, you're a massive fucking pussy who wants to grandstand about the community to perpetuate a total victim narrative. 3 days after Allucid's response on April 21st, 2022, Shive, who has now changed his name to Zenoli, will drop a Google Drive with everything he knew about Allucid and the situation. And without knowing it, you've already seen the contents of the Google Drive because I've been putting in the evidence and screenshots throughout the video. Allucid's response to this was to threaten legal action against Shive. Always a good move to do that, yep. As some sources told me, he had a lawyer and was considering a lawsuit, but eventually put it on pause because of some IRL stuff. And that is the last we've heard of Allucid. The Google Drive has been sitting there, waiting. Now, when it was published, someone should have taken a close look, but by then, everyone else was already distracted by the Cammy Johnson situation, and again, no one noticed. Until now. As we approach the end of this video essay investigation, I'd like to bring your attention back to the only point that defends Allucid. The fact that no DMs are shown where the girl specifically highlights her age. Now, if there had been no developments since the Shive allegations, this aspect would have easily disproved them, but it's pretty clear that Allucid's behaviour since has only enhanced his guilt. He messaged and talked sexually with this underage girl, he constantly deleted messages with her, talked about wanting to avoid a scandal, and asked this girl for Snapchat, an app favoured by predators because of its features. Then he comes onto the stream, John surprisingly fucks the story, and he walks out without any further questions. But even then, after being regarded as innocent, he's still paranoid of his friends. He manipulates them, he's oddly secretive, and he tests his friends' loyalty to the extreme. This all culminates in him being confronted on evidence, which is followed by him nuking his social media, cutting off his friends, and leaving YouTube shortly after. Allucid will always have the veil of plausible deniability on his side. He can always say that he never knew the age, despite the fact that's a position he's never taken. No one can definitively say that he was guilty of the allegations, but I think it's very apparent what the truth is. But another point has to be made about the commentary community. From John Swan and his affiliates casting unnecessary doubt and rushing through the situation, to a pedo allegation being given to a 15-year-old, to kids prank calling the police, making embarrassing diss tracks, throwing their evidence away as part of a troll, Allucid is a lucky man to have gotten away, whilst everyone else has stumbled over these accusations for almost 3 years. And I think that's been more than enough time for someone to set the record straight. Until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.